right, everyone, welcome back. We're diving deep today into Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the second book in the series. It's going to be a wild ride.
Oh, yeah. This is where things start to get really dark and twisty.
Way more intense than the first book, right?
Definitely. Rowling really ramps up the suspense in this one.
For sure. Okay, so quick recap. Harry's back for year 2 at Hogwarts.
But of course, trouble follows him wherever he goes.
Doesn't it always? He's stuck with the Dursleys for the summer as usual.
Ugh, the Dursleys.
Oh, worst, right. But then things get interesting. Dobby the house elf shows up.
Now, Dobby's an interesting character. He's a house elf, bound to serve a wizarding family, and he's trying to warn Harry about danger at Hogwarts.
Yeah, and it makes you think, what's up with this whole house elf situation?
Right. It really makes you question the ethics of this magical society. Like, is it okay for one being to be basically enslaved to another?
Heavy stuff. But anyway, Harry being Harry, he's not about to let some house elf tell him what to do.
He's determined to get back to Hogwarts no matter what.
Exactly. And that's where the flying car comes in.
Ah, yes, the Weasleys' enchanted Ford Anglia.
What a way to make an entrance, right?
It's not just a cool car, though. It symbolizes this rebellion against the rigid rules of the wizarding world.
I like that, like a screw the system kind of thing.
Exactly. It's that teenage urge to break free, defy expectations. Everyone's felt that at some point, right?
Oh, totally. Who hasn't wanted to fly a car to school instead of taking the bus? But once Harry gets to Hogwarts, things take a dark turn pretty quickly.
Those creepy messages start appearing on the walls, warning about the Chamber of Secrets being open.
Chillin' stuff. And then Muggle-born students start getting attacked.
This is where Rowling really digs into the theme of prejudice. The way those Muggle-born students are treated, it mirrors real-world discrimination, and it's pretty unsettling.
It's a powerful message, for sure. And it's not just talk. Things escalate quickly.
Students start getting petrified, frozen solid, and even a ghost isn't safe.
Yeah, Moaning Myrtle gets caught in the crossfire, too. Talk about adding to the creepy atmosphere.
Rowling knows how to build suspense, that's for sure. She's constantly dropping clues and making you question who's behind these attacks.
Totally. And then right in the middle of all this, Harry discovers something shocking about himself. He can speak Parseltongue, the language of snakes.
That's a huge reveal, and it has major implications in the wizarding world. Parseltongue is associated with Salazar Slytherin, one of the founders of Hogwarts, and it's often seen as a sign of dark magic.
So people start looking at Harry differently, wondering if there's something sinister about him.
Exactly. It raises questions about Harry's true nature, his connection to Voldemort. I mean, think about it. Voldemort's the heir of Slytherin, right?
Yeah, it's all connected. And then, as if things weren't complicated enough, Harry finds Tom Riddle's diary.
Ah, that diary. Seems harmless enough, right? An old book.
Just some random antique.
But it's anything but ordinary. That diary is like a time capsule from a previous Chamber of Secrets incident.
Whoa, so we're getting a glimpse into the past.
And more importantly, it's our first real encounter with the concept of Horcruxes.
Horcruxes.
Objects where a dark wizard can hide a piece of their soul, making them almost impossible to defeat.
Hold on, so you're saying...
That diary is not just a historical artifact. It's a piece of Voldemort himself.
Whoa, okay, so we've got a monster running loose, students getting petrified, a mysterious diary, and Harry can talk to snakes.
This is intense, and that's just the beginning. The real investigation is about to start.
Buckle up, everyone.
Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, Harry's in the Chamber of Secrets, face to face with Tom Riddle. Intense, right?
Seriously intense. And this whole confrontation with Riddle brings up some pretty big themes, like prejudice, for one. The way Muggle-borns are treated at Hogwarts, the fear and hatred, it's a scary reflection of what happens in the real world.
Absolutely. This whole blood purity thing that Voldemort and his followers are obsessed with, it's basically a magical version of racism. And it's just as dangerous and messed up.
Totally. And it's not just some abstract idea either. We see it play out through characters like Draco Malfoy. He's always putting Hermione down for being Muggle-born.
Yeah, Draco's a perfect example of how prejudice can get passed down through generations. His family's beliefs have totally warped his worldview. Makes you wonder, though, how much of it is him just being a jerk, and how much is, like, ingrained prejudice from his upbringing.
It's a tough question, but it makes you think about how we all have a responsibility to challenge those kinds of beliefs, wherever we see them.
For sure. And speaking of responsibility, Chamber of Secrets really highlights the importance of choices. I mean, think about Harry. He's constantly having to choose between good and evil, light and dark.
Right, like being sorted into Gryffindor, facing off against Voldemort. It all comes down to the choices he makes. It's a lot of pressure for a kid, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But his choices are what make him a hero. He could easily given into the dark side, especially with that whole parcel tongue thing and the whispers about him being connected to Slytherin.
Oh, yeah, totally. People were definitely suspicious of him. But he actively chooses to fight for what's right, even when it's scary.
Exactly. It shows that we're not just defined by our past or our abilities. We have the power to choose who we want to be.
That's powerful stuff. And it leads us to another big theme. Courage and loyalty. I mean, think about it. Harry's going up against a giant snake. That takes guts.
Oh, yeah, major guts. But it's not just Harry. Ron and Hermione are right there with him every step of the way, showing incredible loyalty and support.
Their friendship is the real deal. Facing down a basilisk, deciphering clues, it's all about teamwork.
And that's what makes them such great characters. They're not perfect, they argue, they make mistakes, but in the end, they always have each other's backs.
True friendship goals right there. And while we're talking about characters, we can't forget Tom Riddle. He's such a complex villain. Charming, intelligent, but underneath it all, darkness.
Oh yeah, he's manipulative and power-hungry. His story is like a warning about what happens when ambition goes unchecked.
It makes you think about the people we trust, the leaders we follow. Like, are they really who they seem?
It's a good reminder to be critical, to question motives.
Totally. And speaking of Riddle, let's circle back to that diary. It's not just some old book, it's like a physical representation of his obsession with power.
It's almost like he poured all his darkness and hatred into it, and it became this weapon he could use even after he was, well,
Gone.
Yeah,
Kind of creepy when you think about it.
totally creepy.
Yeah.
But it makes you think, right, what kind of traces do we leave behind? What impact do our words and actions have on others?
Deep stuff. But before we get too philosophical here, let's talk about the other characters. We've focused a lot on Harry, Ron, and Hermione, but there are so many others who bring this book to life.
So many. Hagrid, Lockhart, even Moaning Myrtle, they all add something special to the story. And we can't forget Ginny Weasley. She goes through a lot in this book, being possessed by Riddle's diary.
Yeah, poor Jenny. It's pretty scary what happens to her. But she shows so much strength in the end.
It's almost like she has to face her own inner demons, and she comes out stronger on the other side.
She's definitely one tough cookie. And speaking of transformations, Rowling's writing style in this book is noticeably different than in Philosopher's Stone.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's darker, more suspenseful, the stakes are higher, the threats are scarier.
You can feel the tension building throughout the story, but at the same time, it's still got that trademark Rowling humor and charm.
Right. She somehow manages to balance the darkness with the light, the funny moments with the scary ones. It's what makes her writing so engaging.
Totally agree. Okay, before we move on to our final thoughts, I have a question for you. We've talked a lot about prejudice in this book. If you were a student at Hogwarts, how do you think you would have reacted to the attacks on Muggle-born students? Would you have spoken out?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's easy to say you do the right thing, but when you're actually faced with danger, it's different.
Yeah, peer pressure, fear, it can be hard to stand up for what you believe in. Definitely something to think about. But for now, let's take a break and come back to wrap up our deep dive into Chamber of Secrets. Okay, so we're back, still exploring the depths of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's always more to discover, right?
Oh, yeah, tons more. One thing that always blows me away is how Rowling blends together all these different genres. It's a mystery, it's fantasy, it's a coming-of-age story all at the same time.
It really is. It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle while also being swept up in this amazing magical world and following Harry's journey as he figures out who he is.
It's a lot, but Rowling makes it work so well. And she keeps you hooked the whole time, too.
Yeah.
You're laughing one minute, then holding your breath the next.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like when Harry's facing down the basilisk, talk about suspense. And speaking of the basilisk, all the creatures in this book are just so creative and imaginative.
Oh my gosh, yes, the Whomping Willow, Moaning Myrtle, they all have such distinct personalities. And they're not just random additions. They all play a role in the story. It's like she built this whole ecosystem of magical beings.
And the world building itself is just incredible. Reading her descriptions is like stepping right into Hogwarts. I can practically smell the pumpkin pasties in the Great Hall.
Seriously. The cold stone walls, the smell of old books in the library, she brings it all to life. You're not just reading about this world, you're experiencing it.
Exactly. It's more than just a story. It's a whole world you get to explore. And this book had such a huge impact, wouldn't you say? It really took the whole Harry Potter phenomenon to another level.
Oh, for sure. It introduced so many iconic elements that are now essential parts of the series. The chamber itself, the basilisk, Parseltongue, it's all here.
Yeah, it's like the foundation for so much of what comes later, and it sparked so many discussions and theories. People are still analyzing this book years later.
It definitely got people thinking, oh, and we can't forget Dobby. He might seem like a minor character, but he plays a big role in this book.
Yeah, his whole story adds another layer to this exploration of magical creatures and how they're treated in the wizarding world.
Right. It makes you think about freedom and servitude and whether it's right to treat any being like property, even if they're magical.
Tough questions for sure. And you can't help but root for Dobby. He's so loyal to Harry, even risking his own life to protect him.
He's definitely a fan favorite. And he reminds us that even in this world of magic and wonder, it's the simple things like love and compassion that really matter.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, I think it's clear that Chamber of Secrets is more than just a kid's book. It's got mystery, adventure, teaches us about facing our fears and standing up for what's right.
It's a story about friendship, loyalty, and choosing good over evil. Pretty timeless themes when you think about it.
It really is, and that's why people are still so drawn to it even all these years later. It reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference.
No matter how small we might feel. So, thanks for joining us on this journey through Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. And remember, the next time you're feeling brave, channel your inner Harry, Ron, or Hermione. You never know what you might accomplish.